Hello again, people, and welcome to another Ball Over Passion episode. We are previewing this Man City game. Everyone's up in arms about the lineup because no one likes Rob Holding. Well, none of us do either. But what are you thinking about this lineup, George?
I'm okay. Look, I'm annoyed. I'm going to call a spade a spade. Like, you can have two things being equally true. I think Rob Holding starting this game is poor. I'm really not a fan of it. I've said for a long time, him and Cedric are both players that I believe lower the level of the team actively. And I think Rob Holding playing will drop our line infinitely in the game. I do think he's going to be a pressing trigger. I do think it's going to be a problem. Am I annoyed that, to the point that it's done? I don't think I agree with the timeline on that, but I will say he's absolutely detrimental to the team. We do need to move on from him ASAP. But I am really happy to see Trossard and Tierney. I did say going into it, I really wanted to see that dynamic play out, particularly in the second team. And I do think that this midfield three with Vieira, Xhaka, and Partey is going to be really important for seeing what Vieira can actually hold, to this team. I don't think he's really had an opportunity to have a full 90 start with a first choice midfield. And so I'm really excited to see that happen. And generally, I'm really quite happy with the team. It has a nice play of resting in addition to having a very strong lineup that shouldn't make us have or lose by a large score line. I don't think Rob Holding suddenly eliminates your ability, to have a good game. But one thing I do think it does is it ruins our buildup and it ruins our ability to control matches. That's really the crux of it. Because when you combine both him and Turner, who Turner's been really good recently in form, but I think when you combine Rob Holding, who struggles with distribution, and then a Turner who needs to release quickly, and combined with Kieran Tierney as well as Gabriel, you're having a back line there that isn't necessarily the greatest in progression. And so you're going to have to be going long quite a bit. And that's okay with Eddie and Kedia in the lineup. He's a little bit of a bigger outlet in the front line with it. But no, I'm not quite happy, particularly when you look at Gabriel, Kieran Tierney in that back line, in addition to Matt Turner. You're having a lot of people that don't distribute well in the first phase there. So adding your worst distributor in that lineup doesn't seem like a good compliment. At the very least, I would have preferred a two-axis where there's a pretty strong distribution, which means Saliba or Ben White going. Like that's the crux of it. It's not the fact that Rob can't do anything. It's the fact that he's so poor in distribution. But when you look at that back line in general, it has quite a few players that are not the top level with distribution. And that is what, even if your midfield Partey will drop, that's when it still struggles. Because when you have more than two or three people in the back line that are going to struggle with distribution, you're going to be targeted as a weakness. Now, I think I'm not a big fan of Holland and Rob Holding having a matchup. I mean, that immediately right there is going to be a very poor 1v1. I would have preferred Saliba or a Ben White, particularly with a week's rest. Like there's no upcoming game, so I am annoyed. I am annoyed with it. But everywhere else on the pitch, I'm happy. So I was really happy with the left-hand side. I felt like that was something that he could have galaxy brained a lot more and put our starters in, which we did not need to do. So I am, on the one hand, I'm upset with something I didn't expect him doing, but then on the other hand, I'm happy for him doing something I wanted. So yeah, how about you, mate? What are you thinking with the lineup?
I mean, see, the thing is, for me, our main source of anything in terms of being stable, the press, everything, it comes from our pivot. A lot of us say, but the main two in the midfield, Xhaka and Partey.
Well, if
So
you're not going to
the
say
main,
pivot, I'm going to say pivot. Are you kidding me? Like
but
I've been on this hill
the
for so
main thing for
long,
me
and then
is
we've got
yeah.
all of these little links going on to those 6-8s and multiple. We'll have to address that in another video.
Yeah, we will.
But you're damn right, it's a pivot, and it's been a pivot for a while. And like I'm very happy to see the targets, let's just say, which seem to back that up. But sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, the main thing for me is when you have Tomiyasu, Xhaka, Partey, and Gabriel, at least you have, some ability to really push. That ability in the first phase, which you were mentioning, is lacking, and I agree is lacking. But at least you have that ability to sort of push and hide, holding a little bit. I don't think he's going to be as ball dominant. He's going to do those stupid run outs that he tries
Yeah,
run out into the midfield and then lose the ball. But I feel like we have the second ball ability in the rest of our back line as well as our midfield line to kind of help him a little bit. Like he won't be as isolated. And there is, like I was saying to your fan, I know you don't agree. I don't think you agree, but there is something where I feel like Turner comes holding down a bit. I don't because usually he's a bit more ball aggressive. I feel like with Turner shouting at him a bit, like they have this sort of relationship where they kind of temper each other's nerves and temper each other's uh, weaknesses, as it were. So I just think that I think if we're only angry about one person playing, if you guys remember last season at the Etihad, like it was getting to a point where we were having Chambers, who I love, but no one else does. The rest of the guys, the Holdings, Cedrics,
Yeah, but
like there was an
current, like when you
awful
look at
backline.
that, a big reason why holding even struggled is because you have multiple people in the first phase that struggle to receive. And a big issue with this back line is the fact that only Tomiyasu is somebody that's a very good distribution uh, player and can receive in both feet in the back. And right now, you've got three players in the back there that do struggle receiving in the first phase. So you're going to be susceptible to a press. The one
Mm.
good thing is when you have a look at Manchester City this season, they aren't very high press in terms of how they operate. And so, I mean, we may not feel those effects as much, but you certainly will feel the effects of having Rob Holding there, but more so because you've got Turner, Gabriel, and Tierney in addition to Holding to that backup. There's only one player that you would be confident receiving under pressure, and that's Tomiyasu. And so, for me, that's where the struggle comes in. I wouldn't have minded if we had somebody a little bit more comfortable receiving on the left hand side. If you had maybe a Zinchenko or you had
Would you have been
somebody else
more adverse to maybe even Kyrgios starting instead of Gabriel and like have that ball dominant,
a
that
little
more.
bit. I mean, I think Kiwi. It's too soon.
It's
I
too
mean,
soon. No, I
he's not
understand, but
even.
I'm just thinking the
Yeah.
dynamics of the back line. If you
Well,
have Kyrgios start, that means it allows that you have a more balls, more someone that's more comfortable on the ball in that back line to build up. So look, we're playing a team that has gone strong as well. They've gone pretty strong. They've gone Haaland. They've gone all these guys. So it'll be a test, and I want to see how the leaders in this, because there are leaders in this team. Xhaka, Partey, um, Eddie has stepped up and turned into someone. Saka, obviously. Trossard will be like he'll be raring to go for this game.
that's
especially with
more
an
what I'm
overlap.
excited about. Like, I kind of want to
Um,
transition from the holding stuff in terms of discussing Trossard and Tierney and that dynamic in terms of how well
sure,
that's going to
that's
do
yeah,
because
for
I
sure.
am excited. Like, I'm not that upset. Look, I've said my piece on Rob, and I think those are the cases with it. But I'm really happy with the Trossard start as well as the Kieran Tierney dynamic. I think people are going to be very surprised. They're going to learn that we do play a little bit differently, and we have the ability to play with an overlapping fullback. I don't know where this notion came that you have to play one profile in one specific area. I mean, there is a pod I've talked about on this channel quite a bit that we need to start viewing our team with complementary pods. Okay, what I mean by that is who's going to be the wide outlet, who's going to be the inside outlet, and who's going to be the deep midfielder on there. And when you have, Granit Xhaka, who is a unicorn in a sense that can do both roles, we've seen it this season. He can do both roles. When you have an overlapping fullback, you're just going to need a winger that's a little bit more of a pseudo 10, somebody that's ball dominant, can receive ball to feet, and is good in tight areas. That's it. You don't lose the Zinchenko by having a Kieran Tierney. And that's what I think people are making the mistake of. You can receive the Zinchenko qualities with a different player and with your winger doing different things. Gabriel Martinelli, when he does play with a Zinchenko, he is not responsible for receiving ball to feet. He's responsible for penetrating the back line with runs and going by line and crossing. Okay. That is something that a fullback can do. But then the stuff that Zinchenko does on the inside with his controlling of play and his tempo could absolutely be done with a winger who likes to do that. And by the way, Trossard likes to do those things. So I think we need to start looking at the pods in terms of complementary pairs, and then from there moving on. Because I am happy to see this. I think Trossard's going to have a really good game. He loves scoring against the big boys just generally. He has an excellent record on it. And just really quickly, no, I think it's a horrific idea, and I don't agree with the rumors about Kieran Tierney being sold. He still maintains one of the best overlapping fullbacks in the league. It makes zero sense to me to sell an asset that fulfills that criteria. You need different profiles in the squad. because you need it for different opponents. And I don't agree with this idea that we need to sell one of our best assets and one of our best leaders in the squad. It does not make sense to me, particularly with a young team. So no, I don't really see on it. But I wanted to give Chris a shout in terms of A, hi, and then B, what did you think of the lineup? And especially like maybe even touch on Vieira, because I do think it's going to be an important game for him in terms of reminding the Arsenal crowd about what he can do. I think it's one of the first times he's got a first choice midfield starting for a full 90 minutes. I think it's difficult because he doesn't have a great back line, but offensively, he has basically the starting offensive line, and he's got a very experienced player in Trossard next to him that he can combine with. What did you make of the lineup? Any surprises or worries?
No, I wasn't surprised by anything. Worries, like obviously, I didn't really want Holding to start, but I thought he would. Just
Yeah.
given that certain players are always really going to start early cup games, regardless of if we're playing Man City or if we're playing Oxford. I thought like Holding. I thought the backline would be the backline. It's been the Europa League backline, and even though we have like a week till the next game, 8 days, he still wants those players to play because if they don't, then they may give issues in the changing room. So I thought he'd start, but do I think he's as calamitous as like? Do I think he'll be as detrimental as he's been in the past? Probably not, just because the whole team is just better. But did I want him to play? No. Do I think how bad he is in the ball will hurt us? Probably, but City don't. City haven't been as their front line isn't as good as pressing as it has been with Sterling, Jesus, with those guys
Well, they
going
don't press as
with
much,
with
really.
Mahrez and Haaland, they're not really good pressers anyways, or do they even want to press? Not really anyways. So that won't really hurt them in the sense, but will they be able to pick out the passes where you need them to do and build up for 90 minutes consistently? Maybe not. But Gabriel has been good on the ball and he's had a higher volume just because they don't want Saliba to pass the ball. And maybe they do teams press us differently because recently it's just been let Gabriel pick a pass out. Maybe they'll force Holding to be on the ball rather than Gabriel. And
Yeah, I
then for
mean,
City, it's their strongest 11 bar Edison.
I think the idea is that we're going to be looking for quick switches to kind of get up the pitch as quick as possible, and then hopefully camp in a sense of using our press to keep and stay there. Because I do think that if we're going to be in a case of trying to build out from the back, we're going to come into some trouble. But I am really excited because it seems that Pep has gone full strength here, and I do think that Kieran, Tierney, and Trossard are going to have an excellent game. I think that left-hand side is going to show people that we can play in a different way. And I always hated this idea that people pigeonhole profiles to a specific area of the pitch because, again, I think we need to start looking at a list of qualities that you need and how these players can achieve that in a different way. I think that Granit Xhaka is going to have a different role, and I do think that Vieira is not going to have the same role as Odegaard has had, especially with Tomiyasu like this. Like I do believe that Vieira is going to be asked to be more of the final third operator to float between the lines, push Saka inside, because I think Tomiyasu will stay in deeper, generally speaking. He still will venture forward, but I do think that we're going to have a little bit of a change in roles with Xhaka dropping deep a little bit more, like we saw when Trossard came on for his debut. I think Trossard coming inside pushes Granit Xhaka a little bit deeper, and we switch the midfield roles, which is something that I've always said is something that we might look towards a little bit more down the future. So I'm excited to see what that dynamic holds. And I'm also just excited to see what City present because this is their first choice 11. As much as it is us, and we've rotated a bit, City haven't. And so I'm very interested to see how City approach this game.
I mean, for me, the other thing is when you look at City in this team, they're not as you mentioned, the press, but they're not as aggressive in terms of trying to close down space, and not just in the press, but even in the middle third. Their rest defense isn't as aggressive as it has been in the past. They tend to use this. They still use that 3-1 rest defense and it's still not as, but it's not as aggressive as it used to be. They don't really have those aggressive monsters in the middle that you can push into midfield and really put and stop the transitions as quickly. So maybe we can find space wide and try and hit them in transitions if they try to boss the possession. I think this could be a moments game, but will it be a moments game do you guys think? I mean, or do you think it will be sort of like we'll come at them and they'll come at us and we'll come at them? Or will it be a game of just, sort of attrition until a moment or two comes?
Well, I think what you have to see is that Arsenal are the best starters in the league. So
Yeah.
I think what you're going to see is a team go out there to try to really lay their imprint on it. Do I think that it's a game of moments? I actually do. I think it's going to be one in both boxes. I think both teams will have periods of joy in the game. I don't think it's going to be like City games of old where we sacrifice a 2-3-0 defeat off the start in the first 20 minutes. I think that you're going to find an Arsenal that's a little bit more combative and a little bit more ready to battle. And I think you're going to find a City that are a little bit more meek and ball to feet. I am worried about Mahrez. I think Mahrez has got into form. And I think that Mahrez is going to be their danger man generally and in 2 weeks, in fact. So I am worried about Mahrez having a good game. But generally, I'm really excited to see how this midfield does against their midfield. I think it's their stronger midfield. And I think this is not our strongest midfield, but it's our strongest point in the team generally. So that's kind of the biggest mismatch between an Arsenal and a City perspective. I think in attack, I don't know if I agree that City have a better attack than us. I think Eddie Nketiah is definitely in form. And he's just coming off the back of a very good game, 2 games in fact in the Premier League. I think Spurs was his best performance all season, but then he's coming off a very good performance at United as well, and so he's going to be in form. He's going to be confident. Saka is in crazy form. Saka for me was just almost man of the match. It was just Zinchenko having a blinder really in that game that really edged him for man of the match for me. But Saka's been in unbelievable form, and yeah, I'm excited to see the left-hand side of Trossard. I do think that City's fullbacks are a weak point. I think Rico Lewis is definitely a very good prospect, but for me, the fullback area has been a tough part for City to deal with.
I mean, that's what I was saying about the rest defense, though, because if you talk about their rest defense, Rico Lewis kind of pulls into that too, and they play that 3-2 rest, and it doesn't really.
Well, they haven't been able to replace Kyle Walker.
To pull out in transition.
Right?
Pull out in transition like that.
Well, yeah. Well, I think the thing is they haven't been able to really replace Kyle Walker and what he's provided, and Kyle Walker's not the same. So yeah, absolutely, it'll be something that we're going to have to look for. But no, look, guys, like I'm excited. I still think it's going to be a tight game. I think I'm going to change my score line though, because I did not. I don't really agree with Chris. I didn't expect Holding to start. I did think that William Saliba would start, and if anything, we would have gave Gabriel a break if we did give somebody a break. But for me, unfortunately, I'm going to go with a City win in this cup game. I think that the second team will do good. But I do think Rob Holding is a problem, and I think he destroys our line, and our line is half the reason why we're so good this year with our press. I think our press is going to be a little bit disjointed. We have the players up top to press well, but without that security behind them and the athletes behind them to defend transitions, I do see Holland definitely getting a Hollywood moment, unfortunately, against Rob Holding. So I think a 2-1 loss for us today is what I see.
Chris?
I see a 2-1 win. I just think, we start well and we thrive in the time that City don't thrive. Obviously, they conceded first a lot recently and have conceded 2 goals in 2 games in a row. And I think if they concede 2 against us, I think they're pretty much not going to win. So I think either we win or it's a replay. That's why. So 2-1 Arsenal.
I still think we win. But I'm not going to go with 1-0 like I did. I think I'm going to go 3-2. I think they will score a couple goals, but there will be a lot of opportunities, especially as George mentioned, the fullbacks. The way we have goals in this team. I mean, 2-2 is perfectly reasonable as well, but I just think there's a lot of goals in this game. I think it's going to be a really fun game to watch, personally. I think both defenses are a bit off. I don't really see a massive defensive performance from either team. So for me, 3-2. Let us know in the comments if you're watching this before we watch this live, we watched this before the game. But yeah, George, go on, do your thing, and then we can get out of here.
Absolutely, guys. So I hope you guys all enjoy the game. You have a good weekend, but make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Before you guys head out, if you can, hit the like button. It definitely helps out the channel. We really appreciate it. And we're going to be back with some more content definitely next week. We'll be here for a transfer deadline space, so everybody who wants to do that, don't worry, we'll be here. We'll also be here for a review, of course, of this game. But yeah, you can find all the boys' socials down below at GeorgeV_AFC or Current at Current BoP, and of course Chris at CKFTBL. That's at CKFTBL. And we're Ball Over Passion here on YouTube or at BoP Footy on Twitter. So guys, thank you so much for sticking with us. A little short, punchy preview today, but we will be back with the review for you guys early next week, and we'll be back to discuss some transfers. So let us know in the comments what you guys want to talk about in that transfer space, but we will be doing one, so we hope you guys enjoy it, and most importantly, enjoy the game and have a great, safe weekend, guys. Peace. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Peace.
Yeah.